a lot of, like all these big games, you kind of feel like you have this, the talking, the lead up, the, endless pontificating, and eventually it becomes kind of time to really get focused in on the game itself and the news that's kind of coming out of South Florida and the fact that we've kind of arrived at that moment now. I mean, obviously away from like the excitement of Christmas and the happiness of the holiday season, it's been kind of a long December around here, right? And the early signing period didn't really take the edge off that very much, and certainly the last couple of weeks of kind of turning the page towards Michigan hasn't really done that. I mean, there's a pretty significant hangover that existed after the loss to Alabama. You just have to be honest and admit that's true. But the team being in South Florida, remember, Kirby Smart had the option to only arrive 48 hours before the game and chose not to do that. The team getting a chance to enjoy these Orange Bowl festivities. They were on a yacht last night having dinner together and kind of taking a sort of a water tour of the Miami area. They are doing all those things, and I think sometimes a change in your physical location can also change your kind of internal mindset a little bit, and maybe being in South Florida is the kind of jumpstart kick that for all of that. So that's good. Let's see what else is going on. Mark Morris, who knows a little something about Florida weather, who lives down there, says we haven't played our best game yet. Michigan and Bama have. In my opinion, we'll need to play our best game, and we will, Mark says. So I'm happy for Mark on all those fronts. I think he brings up a lot of good points that it's time. If you're going to play your best game, this is a great time to be able to do that. Mark Brinkman says about Nick Chubb on Christmas Day. He was a beast, almost beat the Packers by himself. Yeah, you love to see the success that Chubb's having at the NFL level. Allison Scally checking in with the heart emoji. Good to see that. Bama's Itch also says, my father was a student at UGA when they played at the Big House, which is kind of cool to think. What was that? Was that 1965? Is that right, Bama? 1965. He says to his dying day, he stated one of the best games of his life. Looking forward to this weekend. No dad is cheering on the Dogs from the best seat. Yeah, I think a lot of us are thinking back on family members that aren't here with us anymore that would have obviously been thrilled about this game. Being in the Orange Bowl and the historic venue, the historic opponent. There's a lot of time to think back, especially during this Christmas time of year, to think back on, Dog fans that we've all known and loved that are not with us right now, and my father among those. So, Bama's Itch, I hope that you have very happy thoughts in your mind about your dad and your family as you enjoy this week's game. Dogs Only says, hope everybody enjoyed a wonderful Christmas week. We certainly did. Brady01 saying, hearing a lot of sickness on the UGA roster. Yeah, I mean, certainly there was no, obviously, visual clue of that yesterday. Just about everybody but Daniels was seen. I mean, the buses getting off there at the hotel were full, and certainly no obvious sign of sickness on that. There's always going to be an attempt to fill the void when the appetite for information is different than the access to information. And, given the Christmas time and given the travel and given everything that's going on, we're kind of in kind of a restricted access for information for UGA right now. The presence of the COVID protocols increased that, but the appetite for UGA information never goes down. So people are going to always try to fill that void, and there's always going to be, I heard so-and-so this, and I heard so-and-so that, and almost none of this is substantiated. The one thing that apparently has been substantiated, and we'll talk more about this during the show, is that JT Daniels isn't currently there now, or at least it wasn't with the team yesterday when they arrived. Doesn't mean he didn't travel on his own. He may be there now for all we know, but he wasn't with the team when it arrived at the hotel yesterday. And that's about the only thing with substance that can be said right now. And we can't even say from that or even make any kind of inference from that what that means for Daniels for the game. If he's been missing practice, obviously, a lot, that's going to not make him, as potentially effective as he otherwise could have been. But in terms of actually being able to play in the game, you can't even say that about Daniels, even though he's the one guy that wasn't with the team yesterday. Let's do a couple more and get ready to get started. Mike Q gives us the Merry Christmas. Appreciate that. Randy Hall wondering where Pete Williams has been. Yeah, I hope Pete's doing well. L.A. Dog says, if a fully healthy Arkansas team played this Michigan team on a neutral field, who do you like? I feel like it's a push. And L.A. Dog brings up something interesting, which I think actually rolls us into the start of the show here pretty well. Here's kind of the point I want to make today, is that I do think mindset matters in a game like this. And on the one hand, we've all been taught, hey, you don't want to overlook your opponent. You don't want to, take them lightly. You don't want to do anything like that. And that's clearly true. There's a reason that's true. But on the other hand, when I think about what really benefits Georgia right now, tapping into some of what LA Dawg talks about there, I do think that's kind of the thing for Georgia, right? I mean, this is the SEC against the Big Ten. This is the team that was ranked in the top 5 to start the season against a team that wasn't ranked at all. This is a team that produces number 1 and number 2, top 3 recruiting classes with regularity. Michigan, on the other hand, has not been recruiting the same kind of waters. This is a team that ought to have a little justifiable swagger going into a game like this against Michigan. Now, you got to go live up to that and earn the right to have the swagger after the game as well, and no one's denying that. But tapping back into that confidence again, especially when it's coming off a loss and maybe finding that swagger, not quite as easy to do. I think that's important for Georgia. I want to talk more about that off the top of the program, about what Georgia needs to get from a mindset standpoint to be the Georgia that we had loved all throughout the regular season. So we'll talk about that a couple more days for us here in our friendly confines of our DawgNation World Headquarters studios. Then I'll be in sunny South Florida after that. And if you're there, I hope I can run into you and see you. And we'll get ready to have some fun as Georgia tries to punch a ticket for the national championship game. But before that, how do you beat these Wolverines? We'll spend a lot of time talking about that this week. John Stinchcomb stops by as well. It's DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia, and it begins right now.
Today's episode of DawgNation Daily is brought to you by Pella Window and Door of Georgia, viewed to be the best.
Presented by DawgNation.com. This is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. Here's your host, Brandon Adams.
Obviously, a lot has happened since we last spoke to you. As you're watching on video, you see the team arriving in Miami yesterday. I was supposed to be there for that. I guess let me begin with this. I was not there yesterday. We'll be there later on this week. There have been some COVID protocol changes and some things like that just basically it made sense to do the show from studio here today, and so we'll do that again tomorrow. I'll have more update for you about tomorrow's show later on. But we're going to do the studio show the next couple of days and then live for DawgNation Daily in South Florida on Wednesday. That was not our initial plan, but it is our plan right now. Obviously, also, a lot of you know about the JT Daniels stuff that kind of erupted almost like right when we kind of signed off of DawgNation Daily to kind of go on a little bit of a Christmas break. That's when the Daniels stuff kind of erupted in kind of a big way. We'll talk more about that, the latest update on a lot of that coming up here in just a little bit. The team is in Miami. They'll practice today. That will be viewed by the media, at least a portion of that. Mike Griffith is there. He'll give you more of the scenes there in Miami until I'm able to get there a little bit later on this week. And now that Georgia's there, Michigan's there, they actually arrived on Christmas Day. All of a sudden now it's time to start getting into, what's it going to take for Georgia to win this game? And there's obviously a lot of football stuff here, X's and O's and health of players and things like that. We're going to get into that. That matters. We'll do more of the Daniel stuff here later on as well as a part of that conversation. But I also think there's a mindset to winning a game like this that's really important too. And mindset sometimes can be a little bit tricky, but pretty clearly, even if you're not quite sure what the right mindset is, almost everyone, average fans like you and me, coaches, players, almost everyone would agree that mindset is a very important part of how you approach any task in life, certainly trying to win a football game. With that in mind, I want to go back to a few days ago. Jim Harbaugh gave an interview to ESPN. Marty Smith is the interviewer here, and Marty asked, Jim about the stuff they've accomplished already this season. And, kind of how you take that into the Orange Bowl. And I thought that Harbaugh actually gave a really interesting answer. This is the kind of candor that you don't always hear from any coach. And y'all know we've kind of mocked Jim Harbaugh for being the most boring guy in the world, way more boring than Kirby Smart could ever pretend to be. Smart's like a stand-up comedian in comparison to what Jim Harbaugh is on a regular basis. But actually, this is a really interesting answer about how Harbaugh kind of views the success they've had this season in light of what they want to accomplish against Georgia in the Orange Bowl and their hopes of winning a national championship. I want to let you hear this as a way of kind of thinking about the same kind of thing for Georgia. This Harbaugh from ESPN.
You guys did beat Ohio State. You did win the Big Ten, but there's so much more out there for you. How do you make sure they're aware of that?
I can take you back to our first team meeting in August, and one of the things I said to these guys, our team, was Hey guys, let's face it. The buzz has died down a little bit around here. So let's make some new buzz. They could not have made more buzz around here for everybody.
So listen, I think that's interesting for two reasons. First of all, I said before, there's a level of honesty there from Harbaugh ahead of this game against Georgia that you don't always hear from coaches. If you want to go back, and I've mentioned this in the past, if you want to go back to around like 2016 on this show, we were podcast only back then. I was still doing the show from my bedroom closet. We had not even started on video. But around the time of 2016, we were doing this show there at that time, Jim Harbaugh was a pretty hot topic on this show on a regular basis. He was starting his career at Michigan around the same time that Kirby was starting his at Georgia. He was trying to do the satellite camps and the things like that around the South as kind of a force for recruiting. He had been a very successful coach with the San Francisco 49ers, got that team to a Super Bowl, had done some things at Stanford. This was a pretty big deal when Michigan got Harbaugh to come to Ann Arbor and be the coach of the Wolverines. And as Harbaugh alludes to, there was a lot of buzz around Michigan at the time. But Michigan also just hasn't been very good on the field the last couple of years. Michigan hasn't really lived up to whatever hype was generated around Harbaugh when he first took this job. And along the way to that, Michigan has kind of become an overrated football team, at least in the eyes of many people. Before this year, certainly, Michigan would have been one of these programs that you could kind of assume would not play well in a big game, that Harbaugh was destined to disappoint. He was this overrated figure coaching this overrated team, and the buzz that once existed around Harbaugh, what folks thought he was going to be able to do in Michigan, all that talk had largely disappeared. I think it's really interesting that a guy like Harbaugh admits that, hey, we got to create some new buzz because the old buzz has died down. Now, to the Wolverines' credit, that's kind of what they've been able to do here this year. I think that's an interesting comment from Harbaugh because of what it says about Michigan, but also as a template for what maybe should go on with Georgia here there as well. Because if you take the word buzz out, let's replace it with a different word. Let's use the word swagger here. That if you're Kirby Smart, right now with Georgia, you could very easily have the same conversation with your team that Harbaugh says he had with his team back in August. Hey, look around, guys. There used to be buzz here, but there's no longer any buzz. Let's see if we can go out and create some new buzz. And I think for Georgia, take the word buzz out and put swagger in there. I think Kirby Smart, maybe he has said this, maybe he will say this, but he certainly could say this. Let's look around here. Let's look at what's going on with UGA. Boy, there used to be a lot of swagger with this program. 12-0 during the regular season, ranked number 1 for a long stretch. Lost to Alabama, suddenly that swagger goes away. It's time to get that swagger back. And it's the kind of thing that obviously you can earn that over the course of 60 minutes playing a football game. But in terms of the right mindset to win a football game like this, I think creating that level of swagger going into the week, going through the week, kind of rediscovering, what it is that kind of defines Georgia football, I think that's a great way to give yourself the right mindset to win this game. Now, I realize there's a danger in overlooking your opponent, not taking them seriously enough. I get all of that, and I would trust this Georgia team not to do that. But in terms of rebuilding the confidence that you once had, I think that's pretty important here. And, some of the types of things that Georgia fans know when Georgia gets ready to play a team like Michigan, I don't think that should be overlooked. For the most part, Georgia and Michigan simply don't travel in the same recruiting turf. Georgia produces top classes, top 3 classes. Michigan, as of late, hasn't really done that. Georgia has collected these wins in recent years against high-profile teams. You can obviously point to the lack of success against Alabama, but as we've said before, don't let that obscure the fact that, Georgia beat a Dabo Swinney, national championship coach this year. Georgia won a home-and-home series in 2017 and 2019 against Notre Dame. Georgia beat a Cincinnati team in a bowl game last year that's in the playoff right now. Georgia won a playoff game a couple of years ago against Oklahoma. These are things, for the most part, that Michigan cannot say for its team right now. That there is this belief that Georgia is just a better program than Michigan. Now, Michigan fans don't want to hear that. They go down to South Florida believing they're this historic, superpower, and they're returning to glory with what's going to happen against Miami. But I can promise you this, that in the present tense, the Georgia fans typically believe their team, their program, is better than what any Big Ten team is going to bring to the table, the Michigan Wolverines included. And I think regaining that swagger, rediscovering that confidence, I think is pretty important. And along those lines, when Georgia landed the plane in Miami yesterday, couple of key players on this team, spoke about that idea a little bit. I'm going to give you a little bit of a short clip here from Jordan Davis about exactly what he hopes that he and his teammates can accomplish against the Wolverines here this week, preparing for the game and eventually playing the game. This Jordan Davis from the airport yesterday.
It's good. Not too many teams have this opportunity, me and Michigan. So just being here is a great experience and a great opportunity to show what we can do.
I love that line from Davis, who says it's a great opportunity for us to show what we can do. And to the extent that he really believes that, the extent to which as a leader of this team, that's what he is imparting to the rest of his teammates, that's it, right? That's what you want this team to have. Hey, whatever happened in the past for the good and for the bad, it's kind of behind you. Now on a big national stage, there are 4 teams playing in 2 games. They're going to get way more attention this bowl season because these are some of the bowls that may actually still be played. But the point is, there's going to be a lot more attention on these college football playoff games than any other bowl games. So go out and show people what Georgia football really is about. Go out and show the world how good this team really is, how good these players believe it to be, and how good this team actually is against a formidable opponent like the Michigan Wolverines. I like that from Jordan Davis. And along those same lines, Stetson Bennett was talking about the kind of the fun of bowl week and the opportunity. The team got a chance to be part of a nice dinner last night on a yacht. That's kind of some of the stuff that goes on during this bowl time of year. But Bennett at the airport yesterday was also asked directly about the confidence that his team has right now going into a game like this. More of that same kind of talk about this team regaining the swagger it once had as the team ranked number 1 for most of the regular season. This is Stetson Bennett.
It's pretty cool. If we win, it'll be a lot cooler. Got a few more days till the game. Get to enjoy Miami for a few days and then lock in. How's the team's confidence level? We feel good. We practice hard. Watched a lot of film on Michigan. They got a great team, but we're feeling good.
So listen, I like the idea that Bennett says he's feeling good, that they are feeling good. He says they've been practicing hard, and ultimately that's where that swagger really comes from, right? That you earn the right to feel confident in a game like this based on the way that you're preparing. How you have been preparing back home in Georgia, how you will be preparing right now in South Florida, that there are a lot of things that distinguish Georgia in comparison to Michigan. Those things ought to be embraced. This is a more talented team. This is a more proven team. I'm talking about this year and over the course of recent years. This was a Michigan team that disappeared from the national landscape so much so they weren't even ranked to start this season. Well, Georgia's job coming up on Friday is to remind the world of those differences and to remind the world that Georgia's not just the team that lost its most recent game to Alabama. It's the team that's now played a total of, 14 games, 13 of which have a chance to be wins. It's a chance for Georgia to remind the world of just how good UGA really is. And guys like Davis and Bennett, who we just heard from, are the kind of leaders that the Dog's going to lean on to try to be able to get that done. My name's Brandon Adams, and this is DawgNation Daily, the daily podcast for Georgia Bulldogs fans. We're presented today by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. As I said before, we're live in our studio today before heading down to Miami a little later on this week. That was not our original plan, but that is what we're doing now. And it's one of those things, like a lot of folks, we're just kind of rolling with the punches. Frankly, we're grateful to get a chance to be down there. We're grateful for the fact that most of the stuff related to the bowl game really hasn't changed all that much. So, there's a lot of obviously talk and chatter and concern, and we'll get to the JT Daniels stuff here in a moment, but for the most part, things aren't that different right now, which I guess I take as a pretty good sign. And whether we're in South Florida or in the studio, wherever we are, just grateful to have Pella Window and Door of Georgia with us as we do that. It was kind of an interesting last couple of days, right, where I actually found myself turning on the air conditioning a couple times in my house. It had been that warm, and obviously it's going to be even warmer down in South Florida, but when it's warm like it is the last couple of days, if you turn the AC on, listen, that's precious money, right? Especially when you have to try to, cool down the house when it hasn't, been cooled down in a while. And so if you're doing that, you want that energy, that cold air to stay in the house where it's supposed to be, and that's what Pella Window and Door of Georgia can do for you. Also, it looks good on the outside. You think about homes decorated so beautifully this time of year, and folks are kind of paying attention to the outside of houses right now in a way they don't maybe always do. But when you show off those energy-efficient windows and doors from Pella Window and Door of Georgia, it also makes the outside of your house look great there as well. So I cannot recommend Pella Window and Door of Georgia enough to you for what they do, because, listen, I had great conversation with the folks at Pella, the work that they do there. They put a lot of care and concern into their product, because here's the thing they know. they know that that's their reputation. The doors, the windows they install, that's the way in which they will be understood by the world. And so they want to make sure they are putting the best product out there they can. And you should find out more about this. If you know you need better windows and doors, well, time now is to get that, especially as we roll into the new year, the time now is to have a conversation with someone at Pella Window and Door, whether that's a in-person consultation, or if you want to do something virtually, you can do that. You can also stop by and see them in their showroom there as well. And this is a gorgeous showroom that shows off everything that Pella brings to the table. And as you're having these conversations, as you're meeting with the folks from Pella and learning about their expert installation process and all the things that go along with that, also find out about great savings there as well, including right now a chance to get 40% off qualifying installations or 0% APR for 24 months. So a couple of ways for you to get in touch. It's PellaofGA.com/DawgNation. That website, once again, PellaofGA.com/DawgNation. Or you can give them a call, 678-638-1496. That's 678-638-1496. Pella Window and Door of Georgia is viewed to be the best. We're going to get John Stinchcomb coming up in a moment. More on Georgia, its preparations for the Orange Bowl, getting ready for all of that, having a chance to have a little bit of fun too, and just kind of making the most of a situation that really puts Georgia the envy of the college football world in a game that matters, in a location that's one of the dream destinations for really almost anybody in Miami this time of year. Who wouldn't want to do that? Georgia gets a chance to enjoy that. So we'll talk to John Stinchcomb about all of that here coming up in a moment. Before that, though, let's get ready to go around the doghouse, and it's presented today by our friends at AAA. And so towards the end of last week, the stuff started coming up with JT Daniels was reportedly testing positive for coronavirus or COVID-19. No one's denied that report. Apparently that is the case. DawgNation's obviously reported that Daniels tested positive for COVID-19, and based on the policy that was and has been in place, that means 10 days worth of quarantining for Daniels. Now, I think a lot of this depends on, well, if that's still the policy, then when did he test positive and when is he out of all of that? And some of this is just still very unclear. However, the one thing that we do know, we showed you some of this video for those of you watching a little earlier, is the team arrived at the hotel in Miami yesterday, and Daniels was not seen getting off the bus there. That doesn't mean that he hasn't arrived on his own later on, or, all we know is when the team showed up yesterday, Daniels was not spotted being with them. You see some of the video of players getting off the bus right there. You see masks on most guys. They're obviously outside here in this particular situation. I know in the time of this morning already, we've heard from Lewisine and a couple of others, but the vaccine status for certain players, the overwhelming majority of the team, and keeping masks on and trying to stay healthy and stay safe while in South Florida right there. This is clearly the kind of thing that Georgia's going to take pretty seriously. But Mike Griffith, who was the person that shoots this video that you're watching right now, was on the scene, and he did a little bit more reporting related to Daniels on this. Let me show you Mike's. I just want to read straight from him at DawgNation.com for a second that kind of brings a little more, I guess, news clarity to what is going on with Daniels right now. Let me show this on the screen. Mike reporting at DawgNation.com that Daniels was not seen arriving at the team hotel on Sunday, but that does not rule him out for the game. So that's kind of what we know right now. Now, you get into all these questions of, well, if he hasn't been practicing, then how much can he possibly play? We don't know that. There's still so much about this we don't know, but what we do know is team arrived yesterday. Mike says JT Daniels was not spotted there. I'm doing this on a Monday right now. Todd Monken speaks on Tuesday. Maybe Monken can provide more clarity for that then. Kirby Smart's not slated to speak until Wednesday. Maybe we'll hear more clarity from him. Obviously, by that point, that's a couple days away. Most Dog fans would like to get a little bit more on the JT situation by the time we get there on that. So Tuesday morning may be the best deal on that. I guess the one piece of good news is that as of now, and I'm recording this, in the 10 a.m. hour on a Monday, the only name that I know for sure that was not seen yesterday. Now, that's not the same thing as saying we've confirmed every other player's presence, but a lot of them, the overwhelming majority of them, have been confirmed. There were 3 buses of players that arrived yesterday, so this is not like a partial team here right now. This is certainly almost the entirety of the Georgia team, if not the entirety of the Georgia team. The only one, I guess, that with great confidence we can say was not there yesterday was JT Daniels. And what all that means, we will continue to decide. I mean, obviously, there's a huge contingent of Georgia fans that would like for Daniels to start at the beginning of the season to be the starting quarterback again. And to them, they're going to say, well, the COVID thing here makes that less likely to occur. The honest truth is there was no indication prior to the COVID stuff with Daniels that he was heading in that direction anyway. So that doesn't mean that Daniels' COVID status is irrelevant. Clearly, you want all the healthy players you can get for a game like this against Michigan. But this particular issue with Daniels is probably not going to be the thing that prevents him from starting, that keeps him from starting. It doesn't seem like that's the direction that Georgia was going in before all of this happened anyway. But nonetheless, Daniels not with the team yesterday when it arrived there, and we will continue to follow this story as it develops, and there will be more things coming, including, so as I'm doing this today, it'll be a big day around DawgNation later on this afternoon. There will be 15 minutes of practice available, and unlike when the media typically gets to see practice in Athens, I believe this practice can be videoed. So I'm assuming Mike will video it. I won't be there in time, but I'm assuming Mike will video it. So the good news is if you'll stay close to the DawgNation video channels later on today, you ought to be able to get a little bit of a window into Georgia practice there at that time. And so in terms of who is and isn't here, I know Connor Riley's been working on kind of a roll call type deal on this, trying to confirm as many guys as he can, and the final practice piece will help kind of fill in on those details a little bit. But we'll learn more later on today when Georgia gets to have a practice from Miami, acclimating itself to the heat, and media gets a chance to view some of that. Now, it may be because of the COVID thing, they may be partitioned off a long way away, so it may be hard to see everything that's going on, but at least it's a chance to see something. And so for those of you who are just trying to find any piece of information you can get, Monday afternoon gives you a little bit more of that because Georgia will have a practice that will at least be partially open to the media. I won't be there, but DawgNation will be on hand for that nonetheless. That is Around the Doghouse, and it's assisted today by our friends at AAA. And, of course, as you know, a lot of folks around DawgNation making a lot of travel this time of year. Some of it's for holiday, some of it's for game day, some of it's for a lot of things. AAA going with us is a no-brainer. Obviously, AAA is with us everywhere we go, but I don't want you to just think about them for roadside assistance. I want you to think about AAA for your auto insurance there as well, because when you switch and save with AAA, what you're going to find out is you're going to put a lot more money in your pocket for doing so. And the opportunity to switch and save with AAA has never been easier. In fact, if you'll check out this website, it's aaa.com/auto insurance. That's aaa.com/auto insurance. You can learn everything about what they have going on for you right now, the options available to you, your chance to save, why AAA could be the right choice for you. You can find out all of that online, aaa.com/auto insurance. Or if you'd rather dial the phone, let me give you a phone number to dial. How about 866-380-1637? That's 866-380-1637. AAA, great for roadside assistance, but also great for auto insurance there as well. So whether you call them or check them out online, find out all the things that AAA can do for you from an auto insurance standpoint. All right, so I'm happy to have you here on our program today. We got a lot going on. Dan Lanning spoke to the media this morning. I'll let you hear a little bit of that. The honest truth is I haven't had time to kind of go through the entirety of the Lanning press conference as of yet and the other defensive players that spoke, just given the timing in which that occurred. But I do want to give you one piece from Lanning today before we're done on the defensive responsibilities for the folks who've been wondering, hey, what is the future of the Georgia defense without Dan Lanning here? I don't know that the Orange Bowl is going to be quite as clarifying on that as maybe you'd like for it to be. We'll talk about what Lanning said today. We'll compare that to something that Kirby Smart has said in the past. We'll try to figure out all of that. So it's a lot going on. A lot of news coming out of this Georgia team right now in Miami getting ready for the Orange Bowl. We'll do our part to cover it all. And to help us do that, always great to have a Classic City Lager Insider Update with a true insider. Former UGA All-American John Stinchcomb, as excited as anybody is about seeing Georgia get a win against Michigan. And now, with him, we'll talk about how exactly the Dogs can get that done.
From Athens and across the SEC or wherever the recruiting trail may lead, here's a DawgNation.com insider.
Classic City Lager Insider Update with John Stinchcomb, getting ready for Georgia and Michigan in the Orange Bowl. And what a week it's going to be. There's already a lot of news trying to cipher through all this and figure out what's going on. Never an easy task, but John will try to help us do that. John, I hope you had a great Christmas. We appreciate you spending some of your Christmas week with us here right now. And as I said before, just happy holidays and hope you're doing well.
Well, Merry Christmas to you too, B.A. Sorry you missed your flight, but look forward to the fact that we've got more presents coming.
That's exactly right.
Hopefully they come this weekend.
No, that's exactly right. I can't wait for it all. And obviously, in the time you and I last spoke, there's been a lot that's kind of come out related to the JT Daniels stuff and some of the COVID stuff. And, pretty clearly, for a day or so before Christmas, this kind of hung over like a dark cloud over this game, and for the most part, those concerns seem to have gone away. Every indication, obviously, is that the game is going to be played. It is, for the most part, business as usual down there. Some of the media stuff has kind of changed here a little bit, but for the most part, for the team itself, things aren't quite so different related to all of this. But there is the JT Daniels thing right now, where all indications are he tested positive for COVID-19 based on Georgia policy. He would have only even been tested, given the fact that he's vaccinated, reportedly. He would have only been tested had he shown some symptoms. So apparently he was symptomatic, got tested, has COVID-19 or had COVID-19, and it can be confirmed with pretty strong certainty that he was not with the team when it arrived in Miami yesterday. What do you make of the Daniels situation and I guess kind of the larger COVID topic overall?
Well, it's unfortunate for JT. I'm sure he wants to be with the team and a part of this game and all the proceedings that come along with it. With that said, if he's vaccinated, I'm sure it's just a matter of time until he's able to rejoin the team and get those negative test results back and he can participate. Now, what the implications are for the game and his availability due to the amount of missed practices, I think that's yet to be determined. I know there's a lot of fans out there that are wanting JT to take over the reins again, and this certainly doesn't help. But, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and it's impacted in the fact that there's a number of bowl games that have been canceled due to inavailability of players. And as you watch that clip of the team getting off the bus and heading to into the hotel, and you recognize that over 90% of the team has been vaccinated and is trying to take every step that they can to mitigate the risk so that they can play. I think those are all encouraging indicators that we're going to be able to play and have business as usual, which, last season was you're just white-knuckling your way through it, and you're hoping you can play. And this season we feel like it's been a much more a return to normalcy, if you will, but the risk of games being impacted by a virus that has affected this entire world, it's still there. And I think Georgia's doing all they can to minimize the impact and try to stay as focused as possible, given the opportunity that's at hand for them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's John Stinchcomb here, Classic City Lager Insider Update with him. And there was also, concurrent to all this, it seems like that for the most part, things are fairly normal for the team. Brian Gant, a staffer for UGA, put some video on Twitter last night of the team enjoying what looks to be a very nice, cool experience here. So they're on a yacht. They're having what looks to be a great buffet-style dinner. And, at one point, Gant on this video on Instagram goes out and kind of shows the Miami skyline as they're sailing around here. And, for these players, John, I'm glad they get a chance to do this. I'm glad they get a chance to experience the bowl the way it's supposed to be. It's a little bit different for the media right now, but for the team itself, this is the kind of thing that you've earned the right to enjoy. And yeah, you got to prepare, and yeah, it's a business trip, and yeah, you got to do all that. But at the same time, it's a long season. It's a grind, and it's a chance now to be in Miami a little bit and share some camaraderie with each other and enjoy some good food and have a good experience like that. So I'm glad they're getting to do some of this right now, and I think they've certainly earned the right to enjoy their bowl experience as they also prepare for the chance to beat Michigan there too.
At every level, there was someone who'd been there before, or done it, or experienced, the path or the journey to championships. And the message was always the same: enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey, enjoy each piece of it. There's some hardcore fans out there that want the team to just be sequestered away in on a practice field 24/7. That's not real healthy. These are young guys that have been given an opportunity, have earned an opportunity that very few players will ever get to experience, and that's being a part of college football playoff series and have a chance to play for a national championship if they handle their business in the next two games. And that's exciting, and you should be able to enjoy that. And I think there's times appropriately where you can let your hair down a little bit and have some good camaraderie and fellowship with your buddies and enjoy the experience. And it looks like, based on that film, and Can's right in the middle of it, which is always good. It's good for the guys. He's been around the program a long time, and he's good for the University of Georgia. So I'm glad that he was able to prepare into that first night in Miami. But for this team, I think being in Miami is probably a good. You kind of create that bubble. I know the NBA last year they tried to create a bubble where you're only around the same folks. Well, I think there's a similar environment that can be created, and you can limit the exposure from the outside and minimize the implications and risks that would be otherwise more prevalent if you're in a more comfortable, familiar setting, whether it's Athens or you're around family, and families usually got the best intentions for you, but we all have that one crazy uncle or cousin that might take more risks than you're willing to do. So I think we can all relate to that, right? So
Absolutely.
Having the guys in one space and being able to control the environment a little better is probably a good thing.
I want to talk to you more about that, but I also want to point this out for those watching the video. The players are drinking out of these like little short rocks glasses style. Those are not alcoholic beverages. At one point in time in the larger video, Gant did make it clear he actually walked over to the bar where the drinks were being served. It's like a juice bar. It's like lemonade and orange juice and stuff like that. Those look like mixed drinks, but they are not. Gant actually made that clear in the video there. So the players are having fun, but they're not having that much fun, if you get my drift on that. But John, you also point out something I think that's pretty important here, which is that based on the way in which COVID impacted the stuff around the bowl, Georgia actually had the option of not arriving until 2 days prior to the game and chose not to do that. And I think that your explanation may ultimately be why that was the case, is that, hey, you actually maybe can control your environment a little bit better while you're there than you could if you're at home. Now, also the heat's an issue here. You get there earlier and you start getting acclimated to that heat. I think that's probably, because it's in the 80s right now. So I think that's, clearly a part of this too. But there is this thought of, hey, change of scenery maybe changes the energy for the team. Be there in Miami, you can kind of not fully sequester the team, but they're all in the same hotel together. You can kind of maybe keep better tabs on them and just control the environment better in South Florida than you can up in Athens right now. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. May not be exactly what I thought Georgia would have done, just given I think there was some concern about going to Miami anyway. But in comparison, maybe just getting down there maybe makes it easier to manage all this kind of stuff than being in Athens and with the team being kind of who knows where.
Yes, and I'm sure there were multiple meetings held in Georgia staff and Michigan and every other team that's trying to see that big picture. You want your guys to have the time with family, and it's the holidays. You want them to be able to, if you can, experience a somewhat normal Christmas. But you have a job to do, and that job is to make sure you've crossed every I and dotted every T and given your team the best chance to succeed. And come first at 7:30, what steps can we take to make sure that our team is ready, mentally, physically, just top to bottom. And you have a number of meetings, every staff does, as to what that looks like. And you want to make sure that there's enough time that's dedicated and committed to not only football, but entertainment in an organized way. If we can control those pieces, it eliminates, that where trouble happens, right? You don't want to overmanage, but you're trying to find that balance of let's give the guys a good experience where they feel relaxed and comfortable, and that's when you play your best. And obviously, we'll take care of business in the meeting rooms and our practice schedules to be sure that we're prepared with assignments and alignments and everything that goes along that. But it's a bigger picture. Is how do we make sure that our guys are fresh and energized and are doing so in a safe way? So there's no doubt that Coach Smart and that entire staff have spent a lot of time trying to make sure that they've got a good overall plan for each one of the 24-hour days that leads up to this final game.
That's exactly right. It's our Classic City Lager Insider Update with John Stinchcomb. And, of course, the team not enjoying any alcoholic beverages while they're having their meal. But that doesn't mean if you're 21, you can't enjoy some of that as you head towards New Year's Eve, watching the game there on Friday, or obviously anything related to this time of year. Classic City Lager, a great choice for all of that. It's just good cold beer. When good friends are getting together for a good time, some good cold beer just makes some sense, and Classic City Lager is obviously that. And you're doing a lot of shopping right now. You're getting stocked up for parties, whether it be tailgates or New Year's Eve or whatever else, wherever you're picking up the food and everything else, you're doing your shopping. You can also pick up some Classic City Lager as well. It's available in 6 and 12-pack cans. It's a craft-style lager, but it's available all year round. Sometimes some of the special craft selections only available for a portion of the year for a limited time. In the case of Classic City Lager, it's always available, and it's always a good choice. We love Creature Comforts Brewing Company. We love Classic City Lager, and want you to check some out and pick up some. And so a lot of you have tried this, and you enjoy it. For a lot of you, it's part of your regular staple. Whatever your story is when it comes to Classic City Lager, hope you enjoy some on game day, on New Year's Day, and every other time in between. Classic City Lager is just good cold beer from Creature Comforts Brewing Company. So, John, I'll finish this with you. I talked off the top of the program that, mindset's always kind of tricky. On the one hand, you don't want to overlook an opponent. You certainly don't want to take them lightly. But on the other hand, seeing this Georgia team regain some of the swagger that I believe it has had for most of this regular season, being the number one ranked team, and just generally speaking that Georgia always has, because it's such a talented roster, because this is the kind of program that's accomplished so much, especially in comparison to most college football teams, including the one that Georgia's playing on Friday, that finding that swagger again, establishing that while in Miami, taking that to the stadium with them on Friday, to me, that's an important part of the story here, almost as important as any of the X's and O stuff and the actual football stuff. Regaining the mindset that defined this team for September, October, November, into December, getting that back, I think, is really important. What do you think of that?
Well, there's a reason why sports psychologists have found a burgeoning field and been able to impact careers. I mean, you think more of like golfers, but now there's teams that have hired professionals to make sure that there's the right mindset, and to think that wouldn't be a factor is just naive. I mean, you play your best ball when you're confident. I think back to that 2003 season, 2002, 2003 season, my senior year, and we felt really good about each other. We were confident in our team, and we felt like we could have beaten anybody that we played against. And that matters. I mean, you want to be able to know that if in a tight situation that you have confidence that you can get the job done. And that's been a defining characteristic for this team all year long. I mean, they play with that swagger. There's an expectation. That's where the bar is. Anytime they take the field, it's not about the opponent. It's about who's in red and black. And that's the mentality that you want any team to have, and that has been on full display all year long by this Georgia team, and specifically the defense. So to hear the focus and comments that have come out, read Nolan Smith's comments, and just the focus and desire to get back to what they do, and that's exactly what you want to hear. And you're going to need it, because this Michigan team, I think, is in a very similar place where They feel confident. They're playing with a lot of confidence, and they're physical, and they set the tone in the trenches, offensive and defensive line. And you're looking at an offensive line that was awarded the Joe Moore, the best offensive line in college football this year. And on the other side of the ball, you got two defensive ends that are projected potentially in the top 10 of the NFL draft. So it's going to be one of those tone setters where it's going to be physical, and it's going to be one of those, bar fights that you're going to have to bring your big boy pants to and knuckle up.
John, great stuff. Happy holidays to you. Thanks for being with us as part of our Classic City Lager Insider Update. We'll look forward to getting a chance to speak to you again soon. I know you'll enjoy the game there on Friday. At least I hope you do, because that's obviously going to be results dependent in a lot of ways. But nonetheless, thanks for being here today, and we'll enjoy the chance to chat soon.
Thanks, B.A. Good luck on this flight. Hope you finally make it down to Miami, and go Dogs.
Appreciate that, John. Thanks a lot.
Let's take a look around the rest of the league. This is SEC Through.
Great stuff from John Stinchcomb. And, of course, we transition here to our SEC Through. We'll go cruising around the SEC, courtesy of Royal Caribbean. Now that Christmas is kind of behind us, attention starts to turn now to the big DawgNation cruise coming up in April. Man, I cannot wait for this. And I continue to hear from y'all your plans to be with us on board for this. And I can't tell you how excited that makes me, but all the fun we're going to be able to have. So if you've been maybe in and around and out and about and maybe missed me telling you about this, let me give you more of the details, because I want you to be on board and be a part of this. We are leaving out of Port Canaveral. This is in April, but you can book right now in April. April 25th is when we're heading on board from Port Canaveral on the beautiful Independence of the Seas from Royal Caribbean. And we're going to be going to Nassau in the Bahamas. Going to be going to Perfect Day Coco Cay. You've heard me talk a lot about Perfect Day Coco Cay and the amazing private island destination that is right there in the Bahamas, exclusively for those on a Royal Caribbean cruise. Well, you get a chance to now experience it for yourself and all the great entertainment options that are on board a Royal Caribbean cruise ship. This is going to be an extraordinary experience, and it's not just going to be a Royal Caribbean cruise, although that in of itself is amazing. This is not just a Royal Caribbean cruise. This is a DawgNation cruise aboard Royal Caribbean. That means we're going to have special DawgNation events as well, and just a lot of fun. So please make sure you check this out. If you go to the top of the page at DawgNation.com, there is a link in there for you to go to the Cruise and Vacation Authority. They are the only ones we would trust to help book a big travel event like this, the Cruise and Vacation Authority. They've got all this locked down. They know all about Royal Caribbean. They can help you with all of your travel accommodations. Good UGA grads, big dog fans run the place, and so not only do they love UGA, but they know a ton about Royal Caribbean. So April 25th to the 29th, link at DawgNation.com to get in and secure your travel, be a part of the big event, the DawgNation Cruise, sailing in April on Independence of the Seas with Royal Caribbean, with all of you on board there as well. All right, so let's go cruising around the SEC courtesy of Royal Caribbean, and let me start with this. One of the announcements that was supposed to take place on January the 8th for the 2022 class was Christian Miller, four-star defensive lineman, obviously out of Cedar Grove High School, and a big-time target for UGA. Now, Ernest Green, the other name that's expected to announce on that date, that apparently is still a go, the way it always has been. Green has signed his letter of intent and will announce the place where he's going on January the 8th. Christian Miller was going to do the same thing. Miller's been a big target of UGA, but the timeline for Miller has now changed. I want to make all of you aware of this. Let me show you this on Twitter. Miller says, on Christmas Eve nonetheless, I want to take all my visits before I commit. So with that being said, I will announce where I'm going to school February 2nd on the traditional National Signing Day. So that is Christian Miller's announcement there. It should be pointed out, now I don't know how ultimately this factors into all this discussion, but Miller has recently, within the last day or so, gotten an offer from Clemson. So maybe that's causing Miller to want to reconsider his choices. At one point in time, this was kind of thought to be a Georgia-Ohio State battle. Maybe it still is. But Clemson's kind of emerged as a player on the scene here for Miller a bit. Jeff Sintel's going to be traveling a lot over the next few days with these All-Star games going on in Orlando and San Antonio. We'll get a chance to catch up with Jeff on this soon. Maybe he can provide us a little bit of an update on where things stand now with Christian Miller. who was supposed to announce in January. Georgia was, clearly one of the schools that certainly hoped that Miller would choose when he made that announcement. But as of now, Miller postponing that announcement until February. He let that be known on Christmas Eve. So a little bit of an update there on 4-star defensive lineman Christian Miller. The other big story that's going on around college football right now is all of the recent bowl cancellations. And it's almost gotten to be too much to keep up with, right? Because it started with Texas A&M pulling out of the Gator Bowl, and 5-7 Rutgers steps into its place. Hawaii was supposed to play Memphis on Christmas Eve. Hawaii actually pulled out of the game right before the game. Memphis, I believe, was already in Hawaii when the announcement was made to cancel the game. That's just, it's crazy. Then you've got the military and the Military Bowl, the Fenway Bowl, were also canceled Sunday. So Boston College was supposed to be in the Military Bowl. ESPN reported they had 40 players unavailable to play. Virginia supposedly had players test positive for COVID-19. They pulled out of the Fenway Bowl, which was supposed to be at Fenway Park. You've got Miami's pulled out of the Sun Bowl. There's a chance that game is still played, but it's going to be a team other than Miami playing in it. There may be others that I'm not thinking about here. And listen, here's the only thing I want to say about all of this. It's like, I just hope that these stories are covered accurately and fairly. And I'll just pick one game in particular to discuss. So, some people might have the temptation to look at these cancellations and say, COVID's just running wild again, shut it all down, whatever. But in the case of the Hawaii situation, it's been largely, this has been reported on the record that some of what's going on in Hawaii is actually not related to the virus at all. There is something, and the San Francisco Chronicle has written about this, other outlets have written about this. There is something close to a mutiny against Coach Todd Graham there for a while. A lot of players have talked about the possibility of abuse, and most of it obviously verbal abuse, but talked about the possibility of kind of an abusive culture, and they don't want to play for Graham. A bunch of guys going to the transfer portal, and so it has been suggested, Hawaii's bowl cancellation is really about players unavailable for different reasons and just kind of a lack of enthusiasm about playing football at all right now, not necessarily related to the virus. The virus might be used as an excuse there on that. And if you can say, that may be going on with the Memphis-Hawaii situation, then are there some, version of the same kind of story going on with some of these other games there as well? Where, if you're going to one of these lower tier bowls, Fenway Bowl, Military Bowl, whatever you want to call these games, the teams that are playing the games take a financial loss to go there. They have to pay for their tickets. There's a certain allotment of tickets they have to buy. That's a loss. The travel for the team is a loss. They get money for playing in the game. But if you're going to a lower tier bowl game, it's actually a net negative from a financial standpoint for the teams that play in them. So, we'll never know how many of these teams really were unavailable to play. They just simply couldn't do it. And how many of these teams used that as a convenient excuse to get out of a game that now they've had their bowl practices, the actual playing of the game is irrelevant to them. We'll never really know that, but that's almost certainly a part of what's going on here. I know there was a lot of concern around, Christmas Eve or so when this ominous report came out of, there's a cancellation policy. There's a forfeit policy in place for the college football playoff, and if one of these games is canceled, then we'll determine the national champion via forfeit if we have to. And it was reported, so you have to take it somewhat seriously. But I've never gotten any indication that these games, the one that Georgia's about to play in on Friday in Miami against Michigan, the one that Alabama's playing in Dallas against Cincinnati, I've never gotten any indication that these games were heading for anything other than obviously being played. And you may have a JT Daniels thing here or maybe something else somewhere else, but everyone involved, coaches, players, the administrators related to the bowl, the administrators related to the schools involved, everything related, to these games, all being kind of spearheaded by folks who want the games to be played. So I know there was some ominous reporting related to this a few days ago, but all of that always kind of seemed to be overwrought to me, that the teams that want to be in bowl games are going to be there. The teams that don't necessarily want to be in their bowl game, they may find a way not to be there. But obviously, it's disappointing this is back in the conversation again. I certainly acknowledge that. but I don't think that what's causing Virginia not to go play in the Fenway Bowl or whatever it's called, I don't think that has anything to do with the mindset around the Orange Bowl or the Cotton Bowl right now. Those games seem to be moving forward with, for the most part, kind of a business-as-usual approach, if not some slight differences, and obviously a big question over the head of JT Daniels. So keep that in mind. We'll make that cruising around the SEC, courtesy of our friends at Royal Caribbean. And I want to transition here, and speaking of Georgia already in Miami, want to talk about the situation involving the Georgia defense here in a moment. Before that, though, can I give a quick shout out to my friends at Space Dogs before we get there? There was a video that went viral over the Christmas break that I thought was really funny. It was this gal, and she's trying to explain what cryptocurrency is, and she's going around in circles, and she talks for 2.5 minutes, and nothing she says makes any sense whatsoever. And sometimes I feel like when I talk about crypto here on this show, maybe I sound the same way. I mean, clearly I'm not as well versed in the world of cryptos. Maybe some of you are. I know more about it than some of y'all do, maybe less about it than others of you do. And I know that for a lot of us, we at least know it's a thing. We want to know more about it. And that's where my friends at Space Dogs can kind of come in, because while I may kind of talk in circles when I talk crypto, they are a lot more well-versed in kind of exactly what it is. And maybe more importantly than that, how it benefits the average person that tunes into our show on a daily basis. Because really, at its basic essence, this is just a more safe and secure way to pay for the things you're already buying online, the transactions that you're already a part of online. Crypto, in many ways, just makes it easier to make those transactions. And the folks at Space Dogs want to make it even easier than that. They want to take the mystery out of crypto for you, whether you just want to learn more about this, or maybe get yourself involved with it there. Space Dogs is a cryptocurrency, and you can find out about the Dogs wallet, the Space card, the Dogs token. You can find out about all the cool things that they can do for you. So if you check out this website, it's dogs.io. That's dogs.io. You can read all about this. You can learn all about it, and maybe take advantage of one of the products, like the Dogs wallet or the Space card. You can take advantage of the Dogs token and find out how you can really add to your knowledge on crypto and get involved in that world with some folks who love UGA and want to be a part of what we have going on here at DawgNation. So check out Space Dogs online at dogs.io. You can find out more about that there today. Now, while Space Dogs take some of the mystery out of the crypto world for you, it is my attempt to try to take some of the mystery out of the Georgia defensive coaching situation for you there as well. And frankly, Space Dogs is probably better at taking the mystery out of crypto than I am at taking the mystery out of this. I want to go back to December 15th for a moment. This is the start of the early signing period. Kirby Smart does a press conference there that day. This is the last time in kind of an official capacity we've heard from Kirby Smart. But Smart was asked to try to clear up. Okay, so moving forward, Glenn Schumann and Will Muschamp are co-defensive coordinators. Can you add some clarity to exactly what that means? Let me play this to you from December 15th, because it leads into something that Dan Lanning said today, this Kirby Smart on Schumann and Muschamp splitting those responsibilities. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, clarification is Muschamp and both Muschamp and Schumann will be co-coordinators. That's what the clarification is. So Lanning's done a tremendous job here. He is by far and away one of the most loyal guys, hardworking guys that I've been around. He's bright. He's energetic. He's a good teacher. He'll do wonderful things at Oregon. I'm so happy for him that he got an opportunity for a job like that. He had several interviews, several opportunities that he was not interested in, some that he was, and it was one that he thought would be a great opportunity. So I'm glad he's staying on with us to help us finish this thing out. He's done a great job.
So Smart, obviously very complimentary of Lanning there, but at the beginning of that quote also saying, yeah, the explanation on Muschamp and Schumann, their co-defensive coordinators going forward. Well, honestly, with the Orange Bowl press conference, I assumed that meant that either Schumann or Muschamp would be the one that would sit in the chair and take questions from the media. That happened earlier this morning, but it wasn't. It was Lanning who was doing that, which, as I said before, to me was a little bit of a surprise, because I thought the Schumann-Muschamp co-defensive coordinator thing was actually starting now for the bowl game. But today, Lanning was the one that did speak to reporters, and once again, there was this attempt to kind of find out, okay, so how are the responsibilities being divided right now? who's the one making the calls for the defense in the game against Michigan. And in light of what Smart said back on December 15th, this is what Dan Lanning said on that at least similar topic here earlier this morning.
Our approach will be very similar to what it's been all season. Nothing's really going to change from the way we operate, whether it be, luckily with bowl prep, there is a lot more time. There is a lot of time to be able to get ready. And I think a lot of times people make the mistake of trying to do too much in a shortened window, So we'll operate very similar to what we've operated all season. I'll still be making the calls, but every single one of our defensive coaches have been extremely involved throughout the week, throughout our preparation. And this is a team effort. It's been a team effort all season. That doesn't change for just this one game, whether it be Coach Smart's involvement, Coach Schumann, Coach Scott, Coach Adai, Coach Muschamp. There's a lot of hats and there's a brain trust that kind of goes into how we operate, and our players are very involved in that. So everything's going to be operating like it has all season.
So maybe a little bit of a surprise there that Lanning kind of still in that chief role as defensive coordinator, that he's the one that's handling the calls. I mean, I do think that what he says is accurate and kind of always has been the case, that there's a lot of involvement in the defensive game planning for Georgia anyway. Schumann, Muschamp, even Kirby have had a role in that. Trey Scott, Jamal Adai there as well. But not quite the passing of the baton that I assume would be taking place. Lanning giving it to Schumann or giving it to Muschamp, not exactly doing that, still kind of sitting there, even though he's Oregon head coach, sitting there as Georgia defensive coordinator today for that press conference. You're going to get more of this online at DawgNation.com, exactly what else Lanning had to say. We'll do some of this on tomorrow's show there too. So yeah, there's that. Lanning speaking as Georgia defensive coordinator today, saying that he'll still be doing the calls. The Georgia defensive operation going to remain for the most part kind of how it has been. So interesting stuff there from Dan Lanning. And as far as like the co-defensive coordinator situation with Muschamp and Schumann, as of now, it's still pretty difficult to know what any of that even means for this game or for 2022 or anything else. That seems to be still a very undefined topic here at the moment. I want to give out a bunch of golden shoes. Obviously, we're going to have some fun at the expense of the Florida Gators and their loss to UCF. Before that, let me give you a little bit of a heads up on something. So there's a loyal DawgNation Daily listener that's got a suite for Friday's game on the 40-yard line, and he's got 8 tickets available in that suite. So if you're interested, I want to try to help you get in touch with the suite owner to sell this for you, or at least the person that has access to the suite. So send an email to info@DawgNation.com. That's always kind of an easy email for something like this. Just info@DawgNation.com, and we'll put you in touch with the suite holder who's got those tickets for Friday's game. It's about, obviously, and these are being sold. This is not free to the first person who writes in. This is being sold. But if you're in the market for a suite for the game on Friday, info@DawgNation.com. It's not my suite, but there's a guy that has a suite that he's looking to sell the tickets for. So info@DawgNation.com. You can find out some more details on that. And I hope you will, because it'll be a great experience. I'm talking about a once-in-a-lifetime type deal, watching the Dogs win an Orange Bowl, punch a ticket to the national championship game while sitting in the lap of luxury there in a suite. That sounds pretty good to me. Here's what else sounds pretty good. How about some golden shoes to kind of go out here? First time doing these in a while. A lot of Dog fans having some fun at the expense of the Florida Gators. So let's kind of roll through a few of these. We'll give out a few of them here today, starting with Chad Tiller, who says a Gators football loss is always fun to watch. Hashtag Go Dogs at DawgNation Daily. Yeah, indeed. A lot of Georgia fans had a lot of fun with all of that. That was great to see. Let's check out our next one there as well. Mike Mad Dog, who's won so many golden shoes. How about the UCF night? By the way, I could have given a golden shoe to UCF itself because their video trolling of Florida was epic after all of this. But Mad Dog gives us a very nice graphic here of the night with the sword going through the Gator helmet. 29-17 the final score. He says Knights take down those lousy stinking Gators. Yeah, Mad Dog, we love that. Hashtag Gator Hater. He gives that to you. I believe we have one more Florida-themed one of these. How about Blake Wilson? Looking just like Cousin Eddie here. Got the Cousin Eddie outfit on from Christmas Vacation. We watched that a bunch of the last few days. He says, flashback to last week when Cousin Eddie made an appearance at my family Christmas. Today, we celebrate the clown that is Mullen and the joke that is the University of Florida. Hashtag Go Dogs. Blake looks good there in the Cousin Eddie outfit. For those of you not watching on video, listening radio or podcast, it's the outfit from inside Clark's house. The kind of, what do you call those? Is it a dickie? The turtleneck, underneath the sweater thing where you can kind of see the underneath see-through thing there. That's really funny from Blake Wilson. Very much golden shoe worthy for Blake. A couple more to give out here for a moment. We don't have any more to give out? Maybe that's all we had for today. So I apologize for that. But nonetheless, really fun stuff, golden shoe related. A lot of folks having some fun at the expense of those lousy, stinking Gators. And with that, we'll wrap things up here on a Monday. So update about tomorrow very quick, and then we'll do a Gator Hater Countdown. So I am traveling to Miami tomorrow, and that would normally be during the time of the show. Now, we're just going to have a show, and it's going to be so it's going to be, let me just explain it this way. It's going to be pre-recorded, but not like today. We're pre-recording it tomorrow morning. Michael Carville, our producer, is going to be good enough to come in here. We're going to do it early in the morning on Tuesday to air then at 10 a.m. So it's not going to be that different. It's going to be day of pre-recorded, but I can't be here at 10 o'clock because I got to travel to Miami. So we'll do it early morning. We'll have more from the Lanning stuff today. We'll have a little bit of a preview of whatever happens at Georgia practice on Monday. We'll talk about that obviously there as well. So a busy show for us tomorrow. Pre-recorded early morning to air at 10 a.m. And then after that, we'll be live from Miami on Wednesday. So hopefully all that's clear. We'll see you tomorrow. I'll remind you as well, Gator Hater Countdown, 306 days from now. Dogs get a win against those lousy, stinking Gators. We will look forward to seeing you in Jacksonville for that, in Miami later this week, and back in studio again tomorrow. DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window in Dorf, Georgia. We'll see you then. And on video. Did that make sense? So I know pre-recorded shows aren't super fun, but this is not like pre-recorded Monday to air on Tuesday. We're doing it like 7:30 tomorrow morning, and we're going to put it out at 10 a.m. So it'll be prior to Todd Monken's press conference, but it ain't going to be that dated by the time it airs, to use bad grammar intentionally. So hopefully all that makes sense. And I'll take a few of your comments, and then we will get on with the rest of the day here. So with that in mind, let's go back to DawgNation.com for a moment. We'll talk to people there. Georgia Ann Olive says the Michigan players will probably enter the transfer portal after this game and come south. Tom says weather irrelevant to Michigan this week if the team's in Miami all week. I don't agree with that necessarily. I don't believe hot weather is the kind of thing that ruins its chances of winning. But the weather, this hot of weather, isn't irrelevant probably for either team. There's a chance that both teams are potentially impacted by it. That ultimately, it's not so much that Georgia being the southern team is more acclimated to hot weather. It's that Georgia being the deeper team is more easily able to rotate fresh players in. So that if there's any advantage for Georgia, I believe that's where it comes from. Dogs Only says it's good that it's been so warm in Georgia this week, easier to adjust to Miami weather. That may be true. However, I think there's a big difference between like 70 weather, which we kind of had on Christmas Day, where it almost feels like you're in the air conditioning when you're outside. It just feels like it's that perfect, if you could make every single day feel that way, you'd just be perfect all the time. There's a big difference to me between that and 80-something weather. Like you could go all day in 70-degree weather. You could practice without getting tired. You could play without getting tired. But once you get into that 80-ish type thing, your body's just giving off more fluids. Eventually, you're going to feel that fatigue a little bit more. So while 70 is warmer than 80 whatever, and I'm no scientist, so maybe I'm not explaining this correctly, it seems like to me there's this line you cross over of, okay, now it's hot enough to fatigue you. So I think for both these teams, that may be a little bit of an issue. Big Daddy says this protocol gets our coach off the hook when it comes to who starts this game. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Kirby Smart's looking to have that as an excuse. They were not starting JT Daniels. I mean, there's just no indication that was heading that direction whatsoever. So that may be the wrong decision, but every indication we had was that was the decision they were heading on making. I know there have been some reports out there of Daniels taking some first-team reps, but we don't really know what that means in comparison to, what had previously been going on or the percentage of those kinds of reps that Daniels had been getting. Smart was typically coy about all of that. He was asked directly and sidestepped the chance to answer that. He was also asked directly about whether or not Daniels was healthy enough to be the same guy that he was for the final 4 games of last season. He sidestepped the chance to answer that there as well. But every piece of circumstantial evidence we have prior to Daniels apparently testing positive for COVID was this was going to be Stetson Bennett's team and his chance to start once again. Whether that's right or wrong, by this point we've all debated that, but the evidence was that's what they were heading on doing again. Randy Glass says we're about to find out how much moxie and toughness UGA has. I agree with that. Bow up and take our Bama loss out on Michigan or tuck tails and go home. I think Randy sums it up pretty well right there. Somebody in this comment section is listed as Brandon Adams. That is not me. That is not me. That is not me. Randy Hall says I should have gotten a chortle button for Christmas. Yeah, that would have been kind of nice. That would have been kind of nice. Let me go over to YouTube for a moment. Hopefully folks are having a fun time over there. Of course, YouTube also a good place to be for a lot of the video stuff that's going on here this week there too. Worm says, I hope the Michigan punter's ready for a big day. That's pretty funny. Let's see what else. Matt Presley says, what are you hearing on George Pickens? Well, what I've heard is that the COVID issue for Pickens may not be a thing anymore. That apparently he's tested negative a couple of times. As far as him getting significant playing time, I think here's the issue that still exists with that you hope he's healthier than he was for the Alabama game because more weeks have passed. But Smart said directly a few days ago that he's still not 100% healthy. And I think some folks wonder, why didn't he play more against Alabama? I mean, I think the issue is this is a player that's still coming off an ACL injury that kept him off the field for almost the entirety of the year. So maybe he plays a few more snaps than he did against Alabama, but I don't expect him to be the kind of guy that's in there playing, all the time as a wide receiver right now. My assumption is Pickens is still just not quite healthy enough to do that. Crow King 123 says, who is the key to having a big game in order to beat Michigan? Here's the one thing I want to see, Crow King, and I understand why people talk about the quarterback situation so much and Georgia's passing attack. I do get that. Clearly, that's been a very important part of winning college football playoff games in recent years. But I think that Georgia's got to find a way to get that running game going a bit too. You didn't really see that against Alabama. You could maybe say that Georgia abandoned the run, and maybe they did because of the score, or maybe they did because of some other reason. But it seemed like Georgia didn't really have, a big plan to run the football against Alabama. And I don't care if JT's playing or Stetson's playing. That's just not Georgia football. You got to run the football better than you did against Alabama. You got to run the ball more than you did against Alabama. And against a team like Michigan, running the ball against this defense when the defense knows the running plays are coming, that's going to be crucial. The one thing, if you want to compare this Georgia team that's in the playoff now to the previous Georgia team that was in the playoff in 2017, the one area in which the previous team was clearly better was in running the football. They were just a better team in that regard. And Georgia's not going to blink its eyes and be, Sonny Michel and Nick Chubb on the ground, but finding a little more than they have had, I think is going to be important if they can do that. Jay Shipe says, well, I'll be signing into chat tomorrow. I don't know that I'll be able to. I'll certainly try to. I just don't know that I'll be able to. Probably won't be able to. And it's just one of those things of, this is why I wanted to travel on Sunday, so I would be fully free for all the shows. That once that gets changed up, you're kind of at the mercy of a travel schedule after that. Baggins and Friends says Kirby's just being himself with Lanning speaking and keeping everybody else in the dark. I think that Baggins is probably right about that. This, in a lot of ways, is how Smart handled the previous transition at defensive coordinator. They went a long time without really announcing anything. They kind of made the Schumann-Lanning co-defensive coordinator thing, although it certainly seems like Lanning's really been the guy in that role. And so, yeah, the intentional attempt to cover all of this in mystery is, as Baggins says, fairly in keeping with what Smart typically does. Dr. Mo Morris says you got to mix in some passing on first and second downs. Yeah, that is important. What you do early in the game and on early downs is crucial here. That when you do throw the ball, throwing the ball some on early downs is important. I totally agree with that. You can't be predictable, but you do have to run the ball more. Paul Moon says, let's get JD another TD. I like the idea of that. David Botter says this game's going to be one in the trenches. It certainly seems like that's going to be heading that direction. Bobby Mean says, I just think UGA is going to be like Alabama and play with a chip on our shoulder offensively. I'd love to see that. I hope that's true. As I said before, trying to find that swagger again. Big bad SEC against what a lot of folks think of as, a lesser conference in the Big Ten. Even though you don't want Georgia to take Michigan lightly, finding some of that again, I think seems pretty appropriate. Worm says, can you imagine losing a game to Jim Harbaugh? Good Lord. Yeah, I don't like the thought of that for sure. I don't like the thought of that. Jay Shipe says, making fun of me for my weight. I mean, if anything, the last couple of days, I ate a ton of Christmas cookies. I've eaten a ton of, cake, things like that for Christmas. So I'm going the wrong direction right now, but hopefully I can kind of get it all tightened back up again in time to be down in Miami. B. Bean says, do I think that Michigan's changed its offense? I don't know that any team is going to change too much going into a game like this, that what you have been is kind of what you're going to be. And as the old timers used to say, you got to dance with the girl that brung you or whatever. That's just kind of what you got to do. DMart42 says those are the Lord's calories on Christmas, and I would agree with that. Yeah, Jay, I appreciate that. I am trying to slim down. For a lot of reasons. I just trying to be in a little bit better shape, right? So I appreciate you noticing that. Thank you. It's kind of funny. It's like, a lot of the old clothes I used to always wear, you've gotten a little bit bigger. You can't really quite tell this too much from the desk. Hopefully it covers up a little bit, but it's not always easy to find something to wear because, some of my clothes from like years ago were too small still, and some of the clothes that I've been wearing recently are too big. I'm sort of kind of stuck in the middle sometimes. Ace Dog, thanks for the kind words. We hope to have safe travels. I appreciate that. One of the things I'm very excited about is my family is actually coming with me. They are going to the game as well. My wife pulled the trigger on buying some tickets on Christmas Eve. Prices are coming down a little bit. Still pretty expensive. I think she's afraid to look at the tickets now because I don't think she wants to see that the tickets have come down even more. But if they have, maybe they haven't. But the trigger has been pulled. The Adams family will be in the Orange Bowl. I'll be obviously doing my work stuff, but the whole family's coming to the game. Brandon Griffin says he heard that Michigan had 2 players in a single uniform to signify Jordan Davis during practice. That's actually really funny. Barry Watkins gives you the Go Dogs with the orange as the O. I like to see that. Let's see what else. Hugh Nash says I have to keep my weight down so I can do some line dancing for Garth Brooks. That's true. That's true. Let's see what else. Let's see what else is going on here. A lot of conversation back and forth. Steve Highland, I guess, said the Michigan defensive end said he was unstoppable. I saw Aiden Hutchins said a couple of things. This is one of those things where, I'd love to have some honest-to-goodness Baltimore material. I don't know that anything that Hutchinson says kind of rise to that level. He just seemed like a guy that's kind of excited about playing the game. I'd love nothing more than to get some real Baltimore material. Maybe somebody will say something interesting before it's all said and done. The stuff from Hutchinson I didn't think was that, though. John William Adams on being down in South Beach. Yeah, I wonder, I wonder about that. There's obviously a lot of free time associated with these, bowls. You can't keep everybody kind of locked in forever, but maybe the quarantine stuff, or I should say the COVID stuff, makes it a little bit easier. Try to keep guys off South Beach a little bit. There are clearly some distractions associated with playing a game like this in Miami that would not exist if you're playing the game in Dallas. Something tells me that the Clevelander or something like that, it's a little bit more of a destination for some of these players than, like, say, Billy Bob's would be in Fort Worth or something along those lines. Lucy Bowers-Boykin, also on the subject of rain, that's the other thing to think about, is it rains in Miami just about every daggum day. So, weather is a potential factor for a game like this that would not exist in a place like Dallas, where the roof will be closed. Ryan Walker wants to see the ball spread out a little bit on offense, and yeah, that'd be great to be able to see. Brandon Griffin says it's going to be a brutal game. I think we'll come out on top and hopefully come out healthy. Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of thing it's as big as it gets. Like the Michigan uniform is one of the most recognizable in all sports. I'm talking about any sport. A good team, a 12-1 Big Ten champion. I mean, this is big boy football for sure. For sure. Steve Heiling gives you the X through the M for Michigan. Let's see what else. A few more comments. We'll get ready to go. Bill Sanders says Clevelander is old news. He says, "Is this live? Is that how you say that, Bill? Is it live? That's the place to go now." He says Clevelander's old news. Well, there you go. Is that how you say that? Is it Club Live? Is that how you say that? Here's a nice prediction. Matt Rugavina says, how about James Cook having a big game for his hometown? I like the thought of that. Bob Fikay on the subject of JT Daniels. All I can say about Daniels officially right now, and who knows what eventually gets seen today when Georgia does practice and the practice availability occurs for some of the media. But all I can say with certainty now is that Daniels was not with the team when it arrived at the hotel there yesterday. Yeah, it's live without the E. There you go. There you go. Let's see what else. One more swing through the comment section. We're going to be gone. Yeah, Jim McLaughlin, the subject of the uniform. So Michigan being the better seeded team here will almost certainly choose to wear white, I'm guessing, and Georgia will wear the red. The Dolphins almost always wear white at home, although it is a night game. So maybe I don't even know enough about the science of this. Maybe Michigan will say, well, it's dark, so we'll just wear the dark-colored jerseys. I don't know that. Rocker on YouTube asked about Cincinnati keeping it close with Alabama. I don't really see that. I don't really see that. I guess in a roundabout way, there was just nobody else to include in this year's playoff other than Cincinnati. But, given what Cincinnati did on a week-to-week basis, I just don't think this Bearcats team is as good as the one from a year ago. Center Point Media says, what's my confidence level 1 through 10 for UGA winning it all? That's actually an interesting way to answer that or ask that. I'll give you about a 7. About a 7, maybe pushing toward. I'm closer to an 8 than I am a 6. I still am pretty confident in UGA here. You say, well, Georgia guy, what do I expect you to say? And that's fine. You can take that with a grain of salt if you want to. Maybe you should do that. But I'm actually still very optimistic. I'm expectant going into this week. I'll just say that. Let's see what else. Rhett Womack on the subject of Alabama's cornerback injuries, which is obviously an issue there. Let me go back over to Facebook, and we'll get ready to wrap things up. Yeah, I think the uniform choice will be interesting. As I said before, I'm just not smart enough to know, does dark-colored jerseys matter when the game's at 9? Maybe it doesn't. So maybe Michigan will just wear its regular blues like that for that. But given that they are the better seeded team, the uniform is their choice. Anything else before we go? Michael Pruitt on the subject of Stetson Bennett. Yeah, it'd be a great time for him to have a great game. No question about that. Joseph Kennedy wants to break out the red pants again. That'd be kind of cool. Anything else? Back over to DawgNation.com, and we'll wrap it up there. David Hogue gives you a go dogs from Tallahassee. Appreciate that, David. Randy Hall says defensive line can really prove itself against the Joe Moore winners. I was thinking about this. Am I right? Didn't Oklahoma win the Joe Moore Award in 2017? So this will be Georgia's second time playing a Joe Moore Award-winning team in the college football playoff. Am I making that up? Maybe I am, but I think Oklahoma won the Joe Moore the year they played them. At least that's what I thought. Mike Q gives you the red X over the M in Michigan. That's kind of cool. Jay Shipe's also giving you a version of that there too. So, good comments all the way around here. William Perry, how about this from William? He said, I scalped a ticket to the Rose Bowl for $50 and walked into the stadium with Frank Beamer, going to try to top that in Miami. That's really interesting. I mean, those were paper tickets back then, right, in 2017? I have this theory. Now, I would love to have a smart reporter do a story on this. I'm not going to do this, but I wish somebody would do this. I feel like the presence of the digital-only tickets is changing the scalping game forever, where it's like if you want to buy a cheap ticket and you go to Pasadena and you're willing to stand around outside the stadium, somebody's just going to walk up and they're eventually going to have a ticket in their hand. Yeah, here you go. But when the tickets have to be digitally transferred, all of a sudden now I just don't know that you have that same opportunity to kind of buy the tickets for cheap outside the stadium anymore. Maybe my hypothesis on that isn't quite correct, but I sort of feel like that the old days, like when Georgia was playing like Middle Tennessee State or something like that, if you were on the bridge right before the game started, well, oftentimes you could buy a ticket for $5, or if you're a cute girl, you might get a ticket for free, right? I mean, it's like, there's just a lot of that kind of stuff that was going on. But now, does that still happen? Like, can you still get very cheap tickets on the bridge or, somewhere like that before these games, now that it's all requiring a digital transfer? It's almost like the extra step of having to on your phone makes people just incentivized to just sell them. So that's my theory on that. But William, good luck to you on that. Cam Hasty says, JT Daniels going to parachute from an airplane straight onto the field in uniform and lead us in a comeback victory in the second half. That would be incredible. First of all, I'll take the comeback victory, but just the idea of parachuting down from the stadium, that seems to be pretty amazing. Ted, on the subject of transferring players, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in that right now. Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of rumors out there about all kinds of stuff, but the rumor mill exists to satisfy the need for information or the desire for information. And most of this stuff is kind of generated because it seems like it could be true. So therefore, somehow, like a game of telephone, it kind of becomes a thing. I just think it's way too early to know any of that, or really even be all that concerned about any of that. Right now, it's all about trying to win these next two games, and the one for now is the one on Friday. Dogs only on the subject of the players. Yeah, can we show that video one more time, Michael, before we get off the air here, from Brian Gant on YouTube? We talk about living the life here. I mean, this looks really fun. The yacht on the water, Miami skyline, really pretty. As Dogs only points out, a little bit of a prime rib here. Now, I did hear, just to be completely honest, some of the players were a little concerned. I think Nolan Smith in particular, that they thought the prime rib was a little underdone for them. Now, these are young guys. They not have maybe quite fully filled out their sophisticated palate as of yet. Look at that. See, that to me looks really good. I think Nolan Smith at one point in time said he thought that prime rib was going to get up and walk off his plate, basically meaning that it was still alive. Like a lot of us who are a little bit more seasoned, we know that if you're going to eat prime rib, it's going to be medium rare. That prime rib above medium rare is just not what you want. It's going to be too dry. I think for a lot of these players, maybe they weren't quite so familiar with the idea that you wanted the kind of little on the more rare side for your prime rib. For some of them, they sort of made it sound like they'd prefer it to be a little bit more done. But they had like some shrimp pasta here. There's some chicken. At one point in time, one of the players, I forget who, grabs like a whole handful of I believe these were like sesame flavored chicken tenders, just grabs a whole handful of them. There's Trayvon Walker there. Trayvon looking pretty good. Lean and mean right there. Trayvon is. Now we're going to go outside. Watch this. How good does that skyline look? Can you imagine being on this yacht, taking a tour of Miami, having a nice meal? That's what you go 12-0 for right there. You earn the right to be doing these kinds of things. You know, Florida's getting dragged by UCF in the Gasparilla Bowl and getting taunted and, getting beat up after the game in a fight. Georgia's just chilling on a yacht. That's not an alcoholic beverage, by the way. That's not like a – there was some clarity on that a little bit later on. I think that's pretty great. I think that's good stuff all the way around, and a good way to close it out for us here today. So congratulations to these Georgia players on enjoying a much-deserved bowl trip and obviously preparing to beat Michigan there on Friday too. We'll be back in studio tomorrow. Remember, we're early recording. I'm on my way to Miami after that. So we'll have you for all of that. DawgNation.com, DawgNation YouTube page, the video channels, covering a bunch of stuff. We'll do it all with you over the course of the next few days. Thanks for being here for the R.S. Andrews Cool Down. Find R.S. Andrews online. R.S. Andrews, air conditioning, heating, plumbing, electric needs. They show up on time. They do the work that's promised, the price is promised. That is what R.S. Andrews does for you. So check them out today, rsandrews.com. Also, Atlanta Journal-Constitution. All kinds of stuff as Atlanta gets ready to ring in the new year. What you can do to enjoy all of that and a look at everything else that's going on in the world there too. Hawks struggling a little bit. Falcons, doing whatever, playing at the string, I guess. Either way, AJC.com's got you covered on all that. We will see you tomorrow. DawgNation Daily, presented by Pella Window and Door of Georgia. We'll look forward to talking to you then.